There we go. All right, good afternoon, everybody. So welcome to the Global Institute for Youth's Google Hangout on the Voices of Youth in the European Union. My name is Natasha. I am the Communications Director for the Global Institute for Youth, and I'll be running the discussion today. We were scheduled to have 3 speakers. Unfortunately, 2 of them haven't been able to get online, but we still have 1 speaker, so we're very excited to hear her thoughts. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Maria for joining us today. And Maria, do you want to just give a quick introduction about yourself before we get started?
Yes, thank you, Natasha. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I hope that also the other speakers are going to join us. So my name is Mariam from Greece, and I represent the Youth Social Rights Network. It's a network of youth organizations and other stakeholders such as local authorities and private entities. And the aim of the network is the improvement of access of social rights for all young people, and particularly young people from disadvantaged neighborhoods. And moreover, I represent the Youth Social Rights Network in the Advisory Council on Youth of the Council of Europe, which is the non-governmental body of the youth sector of the Council of Europe. And I think that today's conference and the whole discussion, it's very interesting for all of us, especially the young people, because we are the ones who will face all the consequences of the Brexit or, I don't know, the future of Europe.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thanks. Thank you for joining us. And just a quick reminder to anybody following live, you can follow us on Twitter at GI4Youth, the letters. We'll be sending out some tweets there, and you can also, share your thoughts or questions on the conversation with hashtag GI4, the number youth. So our first question today. So what, in your opinion, Maria, are the benefits for young people in being part of the European Union?
Should I start?
Yes, go ahead.
Cool. I think the European Union, because it's a union of different countries and different people, it's something, it's like an experiment for me, because it tries to connect all these different people with different traditions and different backgrounds. And in the same time, it's very great and interesting, but in the same time, it's very challenging. And I think that the best practices that we can use from the Europe is that young people have the ability to go outside and find a job, to go abroad and study, to freely move around the different European countries. And for me, this is very important, because in our country, and especially, for example, if I can speak for myself in Greece, it's very difficult now due to the financial crisis to find a job or to support young people to come from to have a smooth transition to autonomy and to make a step forward from their education to the labor market. And I think that Europe can support this with its values and its standards. And I think that at least most of the countries benefit from the Europe and this unity of these countries.
Cool. I know you made a really good point about kind of the free movement and travel for people. I mean, as a Canadian, I've traveled through Europe, and it's always amazing. It can just go between countries with, no passport checks or anything. So I'm sure the benefits are even greater when you throw in, the work and study opportunities.
Yeah,
I know we're always a little bit envious of that, of how easy it is.
Yeah, it's not only this, it's all the whole values and the standards and the rights, the human rights and social rights that the European zone and the European Union, sorry, wants to promote. And for me, this is the most important.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So our next question for you is, what do you feel are some of the greatest challenges facing young people across Europe today?
This is a challenging question also. I think for me, how young people see the EU, it's connected to the national identity. And I think this is the question, and this is the root of the problems that we face in the Union. And what I mean is that, for example, I say all the people are from different states, but we all feel Americans. And in Europe, it's totally different, because nobody feels a European. We all feel like Greeks, British, I don't know. And I think that the EU is not a federation; it's a unique union of countries. Each country has its differences, and there are diverse countries and diverse people. And I think that these countries don't want to leave their national interests away and to step back from their national interests for the sake of Europe. And I think that also the Brexit was a vote on UK identity and also to the EU identity. And I think that for me this is the most challenging thing. And if I can think of a solution or something, for me is that the EU should define its borders to stop these for having more countries, because the most difficult becomes. I mean, the more countries that are entering the union, the most difficult becomes for everybody to be adjusted and adopt new things. And I don't know. I think this is
No,
the
that
most
was a great
challenging now.
answer. I guess kind of following on that, maybe throughout your lifetime, or even more recently, do you think you've noticed any sort of change in that kind of concept of national versus European identity, either for yourself or for others, or maybe have there been certain things that have influenced that? Any thoughts on that?
Can you please repeat?
Yeah, just kind of over your lifetime, have you noticed any changes in that concept of, the European identity and the national identity and how those kind of intermingle?
I think so, yes. But it depends to the young person. If you have the possibility and the ability to go abroad, study abroad, or live abroad for I don't know how long, and this broadens your mind and you can think differently. And for example, I remember some people in Greece, they were talking about the day when the European Union introduced the EU flag. And it was, I don't know, the Greeks were so against having a Greek flag next to the national one. And for me, it's not that a problem, because I feel like a European. I feel Greek also, but I feel like a European, and I feel this unity of people. And we may have differences, but in the same time, we have so many in common. And I think that this is where we have to focus on.
So I'm going to go back to my last question. If you just kind of want to quickly repeat what we said, because I don't think that got broadcast, and it was such a great answer. So let me just word it again. So what do you feel are some of the greatest challenges facing young people across Europe today? I know we were talking about kind of identity in there.
Yeah. So about the challenges, um, I said before that for me the thing how people and young people see the EU, it's from the perspective of the national identity, and this is the root of most of the problems in the Union. And what I mean is that, for example, in the USA, all the people from different states feel all Americans, and even if they have some differences, they all feel like a union, and they have the common language and common flag and tradition, etc. And this is the difference with the European Union, which union has different countries, different people, and diverse people. And in the EU, they, at least young people, and I think all the people don't feel like Europeans. They feel like Greeks, British, Spanish, and I think that I don't know. The countries don't want to leave their national interests and their national identity and step back for the sake of Europe. And because when I see a problem, I like to have in mind some solutions. I said before that one solution for me is that the EU should define its borders and say that, okay, now it's enough. We have enough countries and we have to stop enlarging and having more and more countries, because the more countries that are entering the Union, the most difficult becomes for everybody to be adjusted in new things and to adopt new things. And I think that also the Brexit was a vote on UK identity and also to the EU identity. And this is something that we should concern about.
Wonderful. Oh, wonderful. And like you said, I think, kind of those national identity questions and that generational divide and how the recent Brexit vote ties in there are really important questions. So my next
Yeah.
question for you is more of a personal one, and it's, do you feel a positive sense of belonging and identity to Europe, and in what ways? Or if you feel a negative sense of belonging, how is that?
Do you mean if how?
Do you feel like, positive about that, kind of sense of a European identity and belonging to the European Union?
Oh, yeah, I feel positive. Yes, I think that if you're a young person and you travel a lot and you see many things abroad, then also your mind is broadened, and I think that you can easily adopt new things and not to be like, if I can use this word, stuck in one idea and one identity. And I feel European, and I feel European with the values and the rights, the human rights and social rights that the European Union promotes, and also wants from the different countries to promote.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So my next question for you is kind of a follow-up on that. And how can young people oh, did you get that question? No.
Hello, can you hear
Oh,
me?
there we go. I'll repeat my question.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it.
Sorry. So how can young people make sure that Europe's future is still based on its core values and strengths?
By participating, of course. And I mean that youth participation, it's the answer to your question. And I mean that I think that I fed up with listening all the time that young people are not active and that they don't participate. And maybe instead of pointing them with our finger, it's better to find other ways to approach them. And of course, nowadays we notice and we observe that more and more young people are not interested in politics, in voting procedures, or in Europe in any way. But as we can see, and as we saw from the referendum, the UK referendum, uh, I think that it was a harsh political awakening for young people, and many young people participate in discussion and debates and through social media, and of course through the decide through taking part in the decision making process by voting in the referendum. And I think that if we increase the level of the political discussions that also the politicians have, this is the way that we can support the youth participation, and by that way young people can promote the EU values.
Awesome. And kind of following up on that, I know in the UK, I'm not sure about Greece, but there's been a movement to grant young people the right to be able to vote at 16 instead of 18. I don't know if that's the same in Greece, but do you have any thoughts on that as being a viable way of increasing youth participation or not?
Yeah, actually 2 days before, um, in the Greek parliament, there was a voting about having the voting right from 17 here in
Oh,
Greece.
cool.
Yeah, so um, I think that you can see it from different perspectives. The one says that it's good, it's very nice and interesting to see how young people and younger people act to when they have to decide and when they're involved in the decision making process. But in the other hand, you have to educate them and to be sure that in so young that they are so young to have a different view of and different opinions, and I don't know how to say, that they have to think from different perspectives when they have to vote on something. And I don't have an answer to this, but you can answer if you agree with one perspective or another.
I definitely agree with the kind of educating people about how to vote perspective. I mean, I was always kind of interested in politics as a young person, but that first time I could finally vote, it was very different. So that's a very good point about kind of having to not just give them the right to vote, but kind of help them do it in the best way possible for them.
Yeah, the best way for me is to involve them in the decision making process, and from the local level, from the local political level. And I think this is the case with me because I was elected in a municipality in Greece when I was 19. And for me, that it was, I don't know, a great experience because I was in the decision making process and could see how things work in a local authority. And now I think that I can easily decide what to vote in national elections and European elections.
Cool. All right, our next question for you is kind of a fun one. What would you do if you were the president of the European Union? And how might your actions enable young people to help reach their personal, professional, academic, and social potential? Big question.
It's a big question and it's a difficult one. Well, if I was the president, I would say that I give more rights and more space for young people to participate in at first in the local level, and I think that would support them to try to find networks with other stakeholders, other individuals, and other authorities. And of course, for me, it's very important to promote all the rights, the human rights and social rights, and the youth participation, of course, and involving young people in the decision-making process together with the, let's say, older people. It's the best combination, and you have the experience from the oldest, and you have the new ideas and new perspectives from the youngest, and this is the best combination for me to achieve the best results.
Cool. And again, I think that's a very important point about, bringing young and older people together to combine those different perspectives and experiences, not just having, the youth making decisions over here and the older people making decisions over here.
Yeah, of course, because I have an example in the Advisory Council on Youth. The Advisory Council on Youth is the non-governmental body of the youth sector of the Council of Europe, and the other body is the Steering Committee on Youth, which is consisted of people from ministries of the member states of the Council of Europe. And there is this co-management system that together the young people with the older, let's say, and the more official ones are together in the same table, and they not only advise the ministers about the youth policies, but they also decide about the youth programs, youth projects, and the youth policies. So this is very important, the co-management system.
That's a fantastic example. Good to hear. My next question for you is, how can young people learn more about the European Union?
I think that there are many organizations, youth organizations, and also European organizations that promote all the values of the EU. And I think that if the other stakeholders and other authorities support these organizations on how to promote better and communicate better the information about the EU, this is the best way for young people to be more informed about what is the European Union.
Cool. And following on that question, what are some initiatives or projects that you've been involved in that represent some of these, youth-focused work that is taking place across the European Union?
Actually, we had many study sessions with my organization, the Youth Social Rights Network. It was with the support of the youth sector, the youth sector of the Council of Europe, and it was about having to the same table different stakeholders like young people, local authorities, private entities, and individuals, and youth organization and youth workers. And it was about talking about the transition to autonomy of young people and how to support them go from the education to labor market. And it was very interesting to see how local authorities can support young people, what they ask from the young people to do for them, and what young people want from the local authorities or from the private entities to do for them. And it was so interesting to see the different perspectives, and it was a very nice project.
Yeah, that sounds like a great one, especially about such an important topic and with all the important stakeholders involved. Um, kind of we're down to our final question, unless you have anything else you want to add. But our final question is, are there any experiences or lessons that you want to share with our viewers, kind of that you've learned from these initiatives, or any sort of life experience that you feel other young people might like to hear about?
Yeah, of course. It's about networking with, as I said, with different stakeholders. It is very important, the cooperation between different people and different organizations, because if we work all together, we can achieve the best results. And for me, the cooperation between each other is very important. And if this cooperation has a great base and a trustful base, this is the most important. And a very good lesson for young people is to don't be afraid and start their initiatives, and to risk about their initiatives and support them until the end.
Wonderful. So that's kind of the end of our discussion. Do you have any kind of final thoughts to throw out there for people? Any words of wisdom or inspiration?
Keep networking.
That is an important one. All right. Well, it's been a bit shorter than we expected, but thank you very much for joining us today. I really enjoyed listening to your answers, and despite the technical difficulties, really looking forward to kind of sharing these thoughts further. And yeah, so thank you again for joining us, Maria. And thank you
Thank you
for
very
everybody.
much.
Thanks again. Thanks for everybody listening. Bye.